How do you feel about paying a portion of your paycheck to Social Security fund? You probably already know that you are required by law to pay into Social Security and that it provides a safety net when you retire or if you get disabled. But what if I told you that the money taken from your paycheck is directly paying someone else's benefits? What if you are not even guaranteed to get Social Security benefits when you retire? Or if you do, you will be getting much less than all the money you have paid into the system. If these concerns aren't important to you now, they will when you retire, or if you suffer from a freak accident that leaves you disabled. Today, I'm going to talk about the problems that the Social Security system faces and why it is necessary to privatize the system. So how exactly does Social Security work? Basically, the government takes 6.2% out of your every paycheck or your salary and puts it in the Social Security Trust Fund. Your employer also pays 6.2%, and if you're self-employed, you are required to pay the full 12% of your entire salary. The trust fund is then used to pay retirees and the disabled. I would refer to them as beneficiaries. When President Franklin Roosevelt created Social Security in 1935, he intended for it to protect and support workers and families temporarily due to retirement, disability, or death. But now we see Social Security becoming the main source of income for the elderly. According to a survey conducted in 2009 by the Employee Benefit Research Institute, seniors over 65 on average receive 40% of their income from Social Security. Seniors with lower incomes depend even more on Social Security. The pie on the left represents the income breakdown of 22% of all elderly married couples and 43% of unmarried persons, according to the Social Security Administration 2012 fact sheet. So what does this mean? One-third of people over 65 depend on Social Security for more than 90% of their income. As you can see, the majority of the elderly are relying on Social Security for most of their support. Now this leads directly into the first problem. The problem is that the ratio of workers to beneficiaries is slowly changing. According to the Social Security Administration Board of Trustees report, in 1960, for every one person collecting benefits, there were 5 people paying. In 2009, it was 3 workers for 1 beneficiary, and in 2030 it is estimated to be 2 to 1. Compare that to when Social Security was first started in 1935, it was 17 million. With over 40 million post-World War II baby boomers reaching the retirement age of 65 between 2010 and 2040, and the fact that life expectancy continues to increase, it's not a surprise that this ratio is increasing. That yellow bar represents Social Security and its revenue. According to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, Social Security will begin paying out more than it's taking in, and that deficit is projected to start around 2017. At that time, Social Security, or the Social Security Trust Fund, will start being depleted, and that will happen pretty fast, as you can see from the deficit projection. The Congressional Budget Office, in their 2011 long-term budget report, estimates that the trust fund will be completely gone by 2038. Then we're really going to start having problems. By then, if the government wants to sustain the system, they will either have to keep raising the retirement age, cut benefits, or keep hiking your income taxes, or maybe it will be all 3. Probably all 3. So you've seen the problems, but what are we going to do? President Obama wants to save Social Security by as much as 35%, asking the wealthier to pay more, increasing the retirement age, and tweaking the cost of living adjustment, so less benefits will be paid out. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 3 for 3. And he hasn't struck out yet. And don't get me started on how much deficit and more spending his Obamacare plan is going to cost. But that's another discussion. Instead of waiting for this to happen, we can privatize the system. Instead of paying payroll taxes, we take that money and we put it into a regulated investment portfolio. So we save our own retirement instead of paying for someone else's. Now, those who oppose privatization would say, oh, what if you make bad decisions and you lose your money? The answer is simple. The personal accounts would be federally regulated and would only allow investment in diversified and approved mutual funds, not in single and risky stocks. The rate of return for private accounts would be much larger than the current Social Security system. According to the Social Security Administration, Social Security pays a rate of return of about 2 to 3%. By analyzing the S&P market investments from 1926 to 2002, the rates of return averaged 7 to 9%, about double the return. But what do these numbers mean? Let's talk about a practical example of how privatization works. The Heritage Foundation, a nonprofit policy research and advocacy organization, conducts comparisons on Social Security versus private accounts. According to their studies, a 40-year-old man who has an income of $60,000 a year will end up paying approximately $284,000 to Social Security over his working career. Social Security would give him around $2,200 per month for retirement. If that same person had invested that same amount, $284,000, in treasuries and corporate bonds, he would be sitting on $904,000, which would pay an annuity of $7,372 per month. Not only would you receive more returns from private investment accounts, but this money is yours 100%, and it's not someone else's. The Social Security Act enables you to receive benefits, but does not guarantee them by law. Congress can change these rules regarding your benefit eligibility at any time. So when something happens to you, your parents, kids, family, whatever, say around the year 2040, when Social Security Fund has run out of money, then you've got problems. Around 2040, if we do not change Social Security, it will be able to pay only 76% of scheduled benefits. That's like cutting your paycheck by a quarter, in addition to forking out your payroll tax. Those who oppose privatization would say that transition costs would create more government deficit, but in reality, the year-over-year growth rates of private investment accounts would offset any extra costs of transition over the long run. And because people would have more money to spend, privatization would actually boost economic growth. You're going to get such a lousy rate of return from Social Security, so why not allow individuals ownership, choice, responsibility for their own diverse investments? What's wrong with having an option? What America stands for is what I'm proposing: freedom and choice. Privatization is the embodiment of free market. Stop letting the government tell you what to do, or actually when to retire. Everyone should become an investor in their own future. And I'm going to end with a quote by Martin Feldstein, professor of economics at Harvard University, former President Reagan's chief counsel economic advisor, who actually reduce wealth inequality in America by 50% over the next generation, because everybody becomes a saver and an investor, and you have a universal investing nation.